Hello class 7 students. So today we will start a new chapter, that is Nutrition in Animals, chapter number 2 of your NCERT class 7 book. So let's begin then. Let us see from the introductory part. Okay. You have learned in chapter 1 that plants can prepare their own food by the process of photosynthesis, but animals cannot. Right? Plants can prepare their own food by the process of photosynthesis, but animals cannot prepare their own food. Okay. So how animals get their food? Animals have to be dependent on plants, as well as animals have to be dependent on some other animals, those who eat plants. Okay. So animals get their food from plants either directly by eating plants or indirectly by eating some animals that eat plants. Okay. So some animals eat both plants and animals. Like human beings, we also comes in the category of animals, and we eat the products, the food products of plants as well as the food products of animals. So recall that all organisms, including humans, require food for growth, okay, repair and functioning of the body. That means all the living organisms, including human beings, require food for growth of their body, for the growth of our body, okay, for the repairment of our body, and for the functioning of our body. That means, why do we need food? We need food because food provides us materials for the growth of our body. Okay, food also provides us energy. Food also provides us materials for the repairment of our damaged parts of the body, and food provides us materials for the functioning of our body. Okay, so what is animal nutrition then? According to the definition of nutrition only, you see, nutrition means what? Nutrition is the process of taking in food by the body of the living organism and utilization of the food within the body of living organism. So animal nutrition also simply defined as it includes nutrient requirement. First of all, nutrient. What do you mean by nutrient? Nutrient, here you see nutrient. What do you mean by nutrient actually? Nutrient are also known as the components of food, right? Like carbohydrates, proteins, fats, vitamins, minerals. These are all nutrient. Okay, these are all what? Nutrients, or say the components of food. So these components of food will be required by the body of a living organism. Why? Because they provide us the materials for the growth of the body, the materials for the repairment of the body, and for the materials for the functioning of the body. So animal nutrition includes nutrient requirement, that is components of food requirement of the components of food, mode of intake of food, that means process of taking in food by the body, and its utilization in the body, and the utilization of the food within the body of the living organism. These all include in animal nutrition. Okay. So next paragraph you see. You have studied in class 6 that food consists of many components. Try to recall and list them below. What are the components of food? Carbohydrates. Okay, carbohydrates. Then proteins. Then fats. Vitamins. Minerals, five gone, and one more left. You can write fiber. Okay, fiber. So these are the components of food. Okay. So the components of food such as carbohydrates are complex substances. Right? Carbohydrate is a complex substance. So these complex substances cannot be utilized by the body directly. So they need to be broken down. Okay, complex substances need to be broken down into simpler substances like this. The representation of complex substance is this, and it will be broken down. If it will be broken down, then it will look like this, the simpler substances. Okay. So the breakdown of complex components of food into simpler substances is called digestion. The definition of digestion, you can mark it in your book, that is the breakdown of complex substances or complex components of food into simpler substances is called digestion. Okay. Next topic, different ways of taking food. Different ways of taking food. Now you see, there are large number of organisms in this earth. Okay. Large number of living organisms in this earth. So the mode of taking food into the body varies in different organisms. That means the process of taking food by the living organisms varies organisms from organisms, or organisms to organisms. Okay, it will vary. As for example, you see bees and hummingbirds suck the nectar of plants. Bees and hummingbirds suck the nectar of plants. Now you see nectar. What is nectar? What is nectar? Nectar is a sugary liquid. Okay, nectar is a sugary liquid present inside the flowers. Okay, then infants of human and many other animals feed on mother's milk. Infants, like small babies, infants means small babies of humans and many other animals feed on mother's milk. Okay. Then snakes like python swallow the whole animals which they prey upon. And some aquatic animals are also there which filter tiny food particles floating nearby and feed upon them. Okay, so the process of taking in food varies from organisms to organisms. Okay, now activity 2.1 is there. You see, what is the type of food and mode of feeding of the following animals? There is a table given to you. Okay, name of the animals are given to you. You have to write here the kind of food which they feed on and the mode of feeding and the process of feeding. You have to note it down in your book. Write down your observations in the given table. You may find the list of modes of feeding given below the table helpful. Okay, so some lists are also given to you here which will be helpful in filling up this table. Okay, so let's begin then here. Various modes of feeding. Name of the animal, snail. First of all, snail is there. What kind of food they feed on? So snail generally feeds on what? You can write leaves and insects. Okay, leaves and insects you can write here. Then under mode of feeding you can write scraping. Yes, scraping. S-C-R-A-P-I-N-G, scraping. So snails also feed on algae by scraping it from rocks. Next is your ant. What kind of mode? What kind of food? What kind of food they feed on? Basically, ant feed on the small food particles, right? Small food particles. You can write here small food particles. Okay, small food particles you can write. Okay, under kind of food for ant. Next, what is the mode of feeding then? Mode of feeding, they generally chew. Okay, chewing. Okay, so ants feed on plant material and other animals by biting and chewing, or the food materials by biting on chewing. Next is eagle. Eagle is a large bird, you know that. Eagle is a large bird So eagle is a large bird which feeds on the flesh of its prey by tearing its flesh with their powerful beak. So you can write kind of food they eat as small animals. You can write small animals. Okay. And under mode of feeding, you can write capturing and swallowing directly. Capturing and swallowing. Okay, capturing and swallowing. Next, hummingbird. What about hummingbird? Hummingbird also, yes, hummingbird feed on the nectar of the flower. Okay, so kind of food for a hummingbird is nectar of flower, right? And mode of feeding is sucking. That is, they generally suck the nectar of the flower. Okay, lice. What about lice? Lice feed on the blood. Okay, lice are wingless insects which live on hair. Okay, and they feed by sucking blood from the skin of scalp. So lice, you can write kind of food as blood. Okay, and mode of feeding will be again sucking. Okay. Next is mosquito. Mosquito also feeds on blood only. Yes, they feed on blood. So you can write here blood. And mode of feeding is what? Again sucking. They also suck the blood from our body. Okay. Butterfly. What about butterfly? Butterfly, nectar of flower. The food will be what? Again, nectar of flower. And mode of feeding is siphoning here. Okay, siphoning you can write. Now what is siphoning? Siphon is the long feeding tube, okay, which is used to suck the nectar from the flowers. Okay, it is a feeding tube, it is a feeding tube basically. And butterfly, they generally insert the feeding tube in flowers so as to suck the nectar from the flowers. Okay. Next is housefly. Housefly basically almost feed on everything. They generally feed on everything. You can write here almost all the food material. Okay, almost all the food materials. Yes, almost all the food materials. And mode of feeding will be here sucking again. You can write sucking. Okay. Yes. So this completes the table 2.1. Right. So yes, for this much we'll finish today, and we'll cover the next topics in the next classes. Okay, so that's all for today. Thank you.